Hello, business innovators and educators. You're listening to The Enterprise Learning Architect. I'm your host, Chris Knotts, here to guide you through practices and ideas you can use to help build a culture of learning in your organization. Stay tuned to power up your professional playbook as we have conversations with exceptional people who share their experience in achieving successful learning outcomes. Ready to innovate, educate, and iterate? Let's do it. Hello, and welcome to this week's Enterprise Learning Pod. We've got something a little bit different this week. We are once again joined by David Mantica, and originally David and I were planning to discuss artificial intelligence in learning businesses and learning products, but Toby, David, and I just ended up kind of vamping for the better part of an hour, and we never really got to the topic, and we joked that the episode sounded a lot like a lot of the podcasts out there in the world. Three dudes just meandering through a bunch of random conversation. So we will revisit the AI topic again soon, but we had so much fun with this conversation that we figured, hey, we'll just go ahead and release it anyway. So apologies to anybody if you don't get a lot of business value from this week's discussion, but we thought it was worth publishing. Have fun and enjoy.
Self-organize here first.
All right.
What's he doing? Clap on, clap off? What's he doing?
We're kicking it off, but you can get yourself organized. Yeah. Well, what's this?
David Mantica, do you have a headset that you could put on?
You want me to wear a headset? I don't want to.
Could you wear a headset?
Oh, mother's shit.
There's some echo. There's some echo going on, and if you turn the echo cancellation on, it reduces the quality. Now this is quality podcasting.
That's absolutely.
Where the
We're
hell
gonna
is
start.
now the speaker? Okay.
Oh, we hear David sounds good, and there's no echo.
How's that? Is that better?
Much better.
Yeah, much better.
No echo.
Much better.
Damn it! I like not having a headset.
Why don't you like the headset?
I've gotten sick of it, man. My ears is like cauliflower. You know those wrestlers that wear the headset too long to get the cauliflower ears?
Oh yeah.
I think I'm getting cauliflower ears. Do I look okay, buddy? Toby, do I look pretty? Come on, Toby. Do I look pretty? What?
Ooh, the honesty. I see why you keep coming around.
I am looking very pretty. Are you?
You look great, David Mantica.
I think you're biased towards fat people, brother.
Or against them. I think you mean to get biased against them.
I think I'm very upset by that too. That's okay. I'm used to it. Like, it makes me cry, but I'm used to it. All right. Do my color look good? Do I look nice? Okay, sure. I look all right.
I mean, we usually don't do video.
How's my voice?
As part of the podcast, but your voice is coming through crystal clear.
Hello.
Luke, I am your father.
You know he never says that.
Yes, he
He
does.
says, no, he goes, no, I am your father. He never says, Luke, I am your father. He says, no.
I thought he said, Luke, I am your father.
Nope. Common misconception.
It's just like
Rewatch it.
It's just like that Men at Work song where I thought I had no idea. I always thought he was saying I take a bite of my sandwich. The Australian song, and it's really I make a Vegemite sandwich.
It's a Vegemite sandwich.
I never understood that line, and one day it just popped. And Pam's like, "Oh my God, are you that stupid?" I go, "Yeah, I really am."
I had a funny conversation with Leela Jane the other day. She was saying something about I was saying you could write some song lyrics, and she was like, "I don't think I'm really good enough song lyrics or whatever." And she said, "Oh, Dad, I'm pretty sure you have to have really good lyrics to make a hit song." And I said, "Oh, no, you don't, my daughter." And so I had to look up some of my favorites for, Come Together and tunes like that. And I read the Come Together.
Rockets at night. Boom, boom.
Lily and I were...
Afternoon delight. Ooh, afternoon delight.
I wish that we could have some explicit... We'd have to change the explicit rating.
Mojo rising. Rising, rising. You know where that's from, right?
I do. I doubt Toby does. That's the Doors, baby.
David Mantica was quizzing me for about 40 minutes yesterday on all of the media you haven't shown me. I'm getting very disappointed in you.
I'm so mad at you. You never
so this is my first...
You never showed him Animal House. How could you never show him Animal House?
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
I was extremely disappointed. And then we talked about, you never showed him, what was it, Silver Lining Playbook. He never saw that fantastic movie.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, my God. How could you not see that movie? It's the best movie ever written. I'll watch it every time it's on.
Okay.
Never seen Silver Linings Playbook? I forgot what else, Toby. You remember what else I was babbling about?
Just two white men waffling in a call. Now it's three white men waffling in a call. This is the perfect podcast.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't know that was me. I thought it was just a fat guy.
We really are. This does sound like a real podcast now, doesn't it?
But we're not talking about anything.
Well,
That's
exactly.
the true issue.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But what else? I'm trying to think of the other movie. Oh, you've seen Idiocracy, right?
Of course I've seen Idiocracy.
Okay.
I definitely made him watch Idiocracy.
Thank
That's
you,
a great
Chris.
one.
How about
That's-
Office
yeah.
Space? Did you make sure you watched
Oh,
Office Space?
second one now.
Okay,
You've seen
good.
Office Space, right, Toby?
I think so.
You think
Ooh,
so?
we'll
If
have
you
to make
didn't,
sure.
You must have not seen it.
Yeah. You would
Office-
remember Office Space. This is
TPI.
Jennifer Aniston with the flair, and she works at like the quasi.
I've seen Office Space. I've seen Office
Why? See, oh my God! Wait a second. I'm taking a step back here. If I was going to describe Office Space to someone, I would not start off with, Jennifer Aniston with the flair.
I googled it. His description did not help me. I just googled it, and I was
I'm
like,
like, oh my gosh! Banging the printer with the freaking hammers. Going to the blankety blank jail. Oh my God! There's so many great lines in that. TPI reports. The stapler.
Brilliant.
The stapler.
Yeah.
Milton.
Check it out though. This is actually worth staying with for a moment because Toby may not appreciate Office Space as much because he's literally never worked in an office. He's
That's
never
just
had
absolutely amazing.
He's never had a corporate job.
He
like
never
you and I
had a
have.
really crappy printer that just would never work. And
I
all
have
you
had
wanted
that.
Okay, you
I
have.
have. I've dealt with that many times.
That's
yes.
probably the best scene I've ever seen in my life when they beat the Jeep inside of that machine. That was the best. And the whole visual, they got the slow-mo hitting it. They're all feeling cool. And then the realization that how badly they are going to get in trouble with the half-a-cent game.
Yeah.
I still remember their faces like,
They're doing the math. Oh, that movie is so brilliant. So it's funny, I was having a conversation about both Office Space and Idiocracy as a pair of must-watches last night after Megan's party. And so it was Eddie that I was talking to, and he'd never seen Idiocracy. And I was like, no, I'm not telling you it's like Oscar material, but it is. You got to see it.
It's prophetic. It's prophecy. It's not about Oscar. It's about prophecy. Right. Mike Judd is a prophet. He's a predictor of the future. He's a prophet, and we all should follow him.
He did a really good job of making sure companies are much more careful before they just blindly accept sponsorship in a movie. Because Hardee's and Costco were not pleased after the fact.
I love that so much.
It was not portrayed in a flattering light.
No,
I got my degree at Costco. How about you? That was like the best degree I could. My dad paid for it.
Welcome to
I love
Costco.
you. Welcome to Costco. I love you.
You like money? I like money. I love money. Let's be friends. I can't get the line right.
It's got what plants crave.
I have a Brondo shirt. I have a Brondo mug. Brondo's the drink, you got to have it. You don't have Brondo.
So here's what confused me about Idiocracy, right? So they're all totally and completely. Everybody's totally and completely dumb, right?
Yes,
but yet they have all of this amazing technology, like the
you
doctor
didn't
machine.
watch you didn't watch it. You didn't know. You didn't listen close enough. That was all done. That was all left over hundreds of years ago. There was smart people just automated everything, and the stupid people just took it over.
I figure that must be the case, but some of that stuff, they couldn't maintain that stuff. I guess I have to suspend my disbelief.
Oh, well, it was
just a tiny
broken
bit.
down. Things were breaking down left and right. Remember? Yes.
Well, the buildings all tied together with wire and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Which, even that, it seems like a pretty substantial civil engineering thing to wire skyscrapers together.
You're too smart for your own good. Not sure is my best part. I'm not sure. Then when he escaped from prison, that was genius. I'm just going. Yes, Idiocracy is prophecy. Yes, it's not the cleanest movie on earth, and you know what? They could have still made all the points by getting rid of some of that dirtiness. That's the sad part about it, from my perspective.
I don't even remember the dirtiness. I guess did it have a lot of bad language in it or whatever?
Yeah, bad everything.
The one of the people sent forward in time is a prostitute.
Well, yeah, but are you now also biased against sex trade workers?
No, I think sex work is fantastic. I just also would classify sex work as dirty.
Okay, let's move on.
He drives a car with a penis on it.
That's true. So we did It's like it is definitely. I'm trying to imagine in my head listeners for whom my professional reputation depends, and what can we and can't we include in this? Because
it's up to you two.
I think. Well, I think we have to conclude as much as possible because otherwise, I think it's boring. I feel like a lot of them are boring, and we need more of this stuff. Like Toby, nodding his head resignedly. Yeah, they're boring.
Well,
I don't know if it makes for quite as good of a educational podcast product, but I think it's a lot more fun. I'm having fun.
We need some of both, though. We need some of both.
I just wish we were in a legalized state, then it could be even better.
Oh, okay, all right.
We had that conversation. In the business
we were talking about that in a business meeting today.
They're going to change their route of travel to ensure they go through a state of legalization. That's interesting, isn't it?
What route of travel is he talking about?
We can't go into details.
Oh, okay. All right, never mind.
We're under non-disclosure agreements, and as consultants, we have to be careful about what we say.
Did I sign an NDA?
That is true.
You signed you're going to have an NDA, or I'm going to come with a baseball bat to your house.
Okay.
You didn't read the terms and conditions, Toby?
I don't think maybe I did. Maybe I'm crazy. I think I just signed an employment contract. I don't think I signed an NDA.
You didn't sign an employee contract. You signed some, which is something we should consider. No, I don't care. In this world, if you can't find something instantaneously, then I would concern myself with your ability to work in this world.
Ooh, the gauntlet has been thrown. The gauntlet has been thrown.
Well, privacy. You want to talk about AI and learning? Let's talk about privacy.
Talk to us, brother.
How much privacy do you really need? Well, so here's the skinny. You should see everything I do. Because if I'm doing stuff I don't want people to see, then there's something wrong with me. I don't get it.
I think you can be doing nothing wrong. Everything can be above board, and you can still like to have some expectation of privacy when it comes to your life and your data.
Why?
Because
you're special?
In the conversation that we were having before, where you self-described yourself as a libertarian, I'm surprised that you would be okay with top-down surveillance intervention because you don't have anything to hide.
A libertarian, I'm like, I'll let everybody do whatever they want. I'm fine.
Letting everybody do whatever they want means you don't approve top-down surveillance. That's not letting people do what they want. That's watching them.
I'll say whatever I want. I was in a call the other day with two people with security clearance, and they're finally like, dude, you better shut up. I go, why? Okay, come get me. You want me? Come get me. I say something you don't like, come get me. Arrest me. Go ahead.
This is the Panopticon conversation.
I'm not doing... Whoa. Take another step back, dude. Panopticon? What the...
You don't know about the Panopticon, David?
Panopticon. What the? Yes,
the Panopticon is a prison that is designed with a central guard tower, where you at any point could be looking at any of the cells, but the prisoners can't see where they're looking at the moment.
You guys are wasting a lot of time if you have that word in your memory banks. When are you going to use that word?
Just now.
I used it just now.
And you know how many people
in college?
And how many people understood it? Well, what college did you go to? The college of like snooty, smarty
NC State University.
Weenies?
It's a public university.
I don't know, man.
We talked about the Panopticon in multiple classes.
Here's a skinny.
I knew about it before college too.
I bet you half the people didn't know what the heck you were talking about. They just pretended. Remember our whole story about bifurcated? Remember I used to stop meetings. Chris, remember I used to stop meetings and say, come on, man. I'm not even playing this game. Define the word.
Get up. Panopticon? Bifurcated.
Bifurcated. Wait, here's the skinny. Oh, and you and John used to drive me crazy with that. You know the John I'm talking about.
Oh, there's only one John that we know of who would drive somebody crazy, and we know who that is. And if he's listening right now, he knows who he is.
Oh, absolutely. You better know who he is.
He knows exactly who we're talking about.
Okay, here's my question. Am I stupid because I don't know that word, or am I smart and making you both have to define that word in a group of people?
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah. Oh, Toby says neither. I say both.
Now this is a good podcast.
Yeah. And by the way, that's bifurcated, by the way.
Yeah.
I think you're too snooty for your own good sometimes.
I get no argument from me, but I don't mean to be.
I know you don't mean to be. It just oozes out of you.
Yeah. What can I say?
Now, don't get me wrong. I've been told I'm earthy. I've been told I'm obnoxious. I've been told I'm weird. I've been told I'm an asshole. Yes.
There's nothing wrong with any of those things sometimes.
I tell Pam, I said, man, I can't help it. I'm weird. I just know I am, and it's tough to break. It's a bad habit to break. Sometimes you have to be very careful.
I don't want to break my weird habit.
No.
It's a lot more fun that way.
There's certain groups that you just don't want to be weird in.
So don't hang out with those groups.
Yeah, but then
but professionally though, right?
I'm helping make money. I gotta make money.
We can mask.
All right. This is a story. Here's a little story for you, right? Okay, listen to this. So, you'll remember, I think my first ever real for real conference presentation. David made me buy a suit, and we had to wear a suit because it was a
PMI
conference
event.
It was PMI event, 5,000 project managers, and they called it their Congress.
Yes.
Their conference
World
was
Congress.
called their World Congress. Yeah.
And there were snooty types who'd like to see professional dress.
Oh, they had a dress code in the terms for the conference talk. Said you had to wear a tie, a suit and tie.
Let me ask you this question. Where did you buy the suit from?
Where do you think I bought it from?
Okay, this is going to be interesting with you. It's not Men's Warehouse because you don't have to go to the Men's Warehouse. You're not a fatty. So I am thinking you got it at Belk.
Ooh, good guess, but no.
Not
I did go to
Nordstrom's.
Belk for a pair of shoes. Oh, no way, man.
I was going to say, you're not a Nordstrom's guy. You didn't go to JCPenney, did you? They're hard to get a suit there.
Nah, you were closer the first time.
With Belk?
I went to I think I went to Joseph Bank or something like that.
Yeah, that's a perfect place.
Yeah.
But now, see, Joseph Bank doesn't exist anymore. They were bought by Men's Warehouse.
Oh, yeah. It might have even been a Men's Warehouse. That's where I've usually gone to buy suits in the past.
I took Tom out to get his first suit. I actually took him out, and we went out, and I got him his first suit and his first big boy shoes.
Really?
He never had big boy shoes before.
Oh, interesting.
And I had to help him buy his and I think it was for a wedding.
I was going to say, what was it for? Probably a wedding, because I don't.
Yeah,
think
he didn't do presentations because I think he would have had a heart attack and died. So finishing your story, was it appropriate to wear the suit or not?
Well, so this is what was interesting about it. So for one thing, it's the whole like clothes make the man or woman or person, but it was a certain professional package that had to be presented, and I never was exactly sure whether it was appropriate. I think in retrospect, I think I was a little overdressed. I did not see any other presenters wearing a tie, even though it said in the agreement that you had to sign that you had to wear a suit and tie, but nobody else did.
Okay, at a PMI event once, when it was back before COVID, I used to always wear my suit, back when it fit, because now I have to none of my suits fit. The guy came up to me afterwards and said, "Thank you so much for wearing a suit." Somebody came up to me and said that.
Because they were feeling nostalgic and like
and
nobody
also
respected.
They felt like, I respected the audience. They felt,
yeah.
So I would tell you that even though nobody said anything, they saw it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think I was like drawing ire for wearing the suit or anything like that. I think it just, you know.
No, you drew. So let me give you another example of this, Chris, about book makes the cover. One of the things that drove me crazy about ASPE is I could not walk into that office in a bad mood. Because if I walked into that office with a bad mood and some people saw me, within an hour, I had people coming to my office asking me if everything was okay. Not related to me.
How terrible.
Related to the not related to me. Had nothing to do with me.
No, there was no personal compassion. They were wondering if the business was okay.
They were worried that the business was okay.
Ultimately, they were worried about their jobs if they saw you being grouchy.
Precisely. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, people watch you. And Steve warned me about this.
Yeah.
And now I warn all business owners I coach. I'm like, guys, people watch you. They'll watch your body language. They'll watch your facial expressions. And we all know that communication is 60% body language, facial expressions. But they used to drive me crazy. I couldn't be myself. I'm like, I'm in the back. I still have to come in. Okay, everything is happy dory. I wanted to go, shoot somebody or throw things out the window.
And yet, all three of us having this conversation, I believe, are somewhat known for wearing their heart on their sleeve. Yeah?
Oh yeah,
right?
That was hard for me, Chris.
So it's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
It was very hard. It's one thing I didn't like. The other part I didn't like about being the boss man was lonely. You really couldn't. So, I had a little special friend there for a while at ASPE. Do you remember my special friend? Little guy.
On your desk?
No, worker. No. I had a special worker friend. Who was my special worker for? Little guy.
No, I don't
marketing,
remember.
Short guy, little marketing guy.
Oh, you're talking about the greatest VP of marketing in the world, right?
People always got mad at me about that.
Why?
Because you cannot treat, as a leader, you cannot treat anyone differently. They see it. They get upset about it. They wonder why. I didn't care. It was just, JT was just kind of fun. Oh, he does. I enjoyed you, but I mess with you. You and Tom, I would just be mean to sometimes. Just outright mean.
You would be a little mean, yeah. It's good for us, though.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Both of you were very talented. Both of you knew exactly who you were. You knew exactly your skill set, but you didn't understand. Like John. John should have had me 15 years prior.
You think so?
Yeah, because he would have been able to see, okay, you can't always be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, we had an experience with one team member, and you said that they thought they were smart, and then that was a danger, and it was true, and anyway. I think that the thing that strikes me about those days was the naivete of yours truly.
But you were awesome. No, don't sell yourself wrong, brother. You were
the skill. Good skills, good attitude, but I'm just talking about pure like exposure to the world. It wasn't like anything about my personality or anybody's. Just not having a sense that there's all of these. I think it's like the awareness of the enterprise organization is really what it always came back to me. Just the whole world of like multinational, tens of thousands of employees and that type. I never worked in that environment before.
I got very lucky having to work for Global Knowledge at an early age and be right in the middle of it all. And the first thing I learned, and Chris, it still blows my mind. I'm in there, I'm hungry, I'm expecting to learn a lot. Then I see all these people that are leading me, and I'm like, no, this can't be true. Yeah. How did they get that job?
Oh, I have that thought so often.
How did they get that job? I was sitting there looking at myself like, look, I know I'm not that good. I can't spell myself out of a paper bag. My grammar is the most voracious thing ever. I can't even say that word right. But
your grammar was what?
I can actually lead. I can do things. I get things done. And that was what really. And then when I went out to the world and realized that was the case all along.
Yeah.
That was very disheartening and disappointing to me. Now we both ran into great leaders and great people, right? But don't you think that was not the rule, that was the exception?
It just depends on the place. There's a lot of great leaders out there, but I've definitely experienced a lot where it's kind of like this dude is driving the Lamborghini and has the pinky ring and stuff, and like he's just filthy stinking rich. He's the CEO or whatever, and it's like how?
You want me to give you a great example of this? God rest his soul, TJ Seipel. We both know him extremely well. He ran his own training company, sold it successfully, right? Got $30,000 from his dad as a loan to start the business. When I first was interviewing at ASPE to take on the president job, I had an interview with Frank, and that was a wild experience. He just sat there. But TJ just rocked into me, hit me. And later on, it's like, I just didn't want you to be one of those empty suits. I was staring at Steve. I was going to hire one of those empty suits. And he'd tell me the story about this one guy who was the empty suit. He'd come in with his newspaper. He'd walk in with his suit, sit on his desk, open up his newspaper, and read his newspaper for the first 2 hours of the day. So, it's been since the dawn of organizational bureaucratic structures. I could see someone in the shipping system in England in the 1600s or 1700s, just having this thing. That Morty, he comes in every morning. He's such an empty suit. I don't think it's ever changed.
The very model of a modern major general, yes.
Would that be fun to do a skit about somebody in the British shipping? What was a British shipping company called? What was the big one? The
East India Company?
Yeah.
No, they were Dutch.
Oh, here I am.
East India Company was Dutch.
Or whatever. Okay, I would say whatever the British version of that was. Middle Management Joe doing a skit on middle management show with his what they call it, Albacus or Albatross
Actually,
or Abacus.
There was a British East India Company and there was a Dutch East India Company.
See, this is why we have Toby here. Yeah,
that's right. For the British East, here is what's a good British name? Byron.
Yeah, sure.
Here is Byron as Mr. Byron, middle manager, and as he's working as Abacus and recopying his notes. And the trials and tribulations.
That reminds me of something truly great. You want to know a great piece of art? All right, yes. Taking it back to Idiocracy, and I'm sure you've probably seen this. It was one of the most wondrous things I've ever beheld. The Monty Python short where they have the capitalist pirates. Do you remember that?
That's the meaning of life, dude. They're going through this.
So I'll tell you. So I saw that in college, and just suffice to say, it was in college. It was like one of the first times I had ever, had a little something recreational for the first time.
You had a sandwich, but how he met my mother when he was telling the story to his kids when he got into that stage, you'd say, "Oh yeah, we were having a sandwich. You were having a sandwich."
There you go. Yeah. Well, but not only just having a sandwich, I had my first ever sandwich, and then that came on, and I just thought that was I didn't know even what I was watching because it was so funny. Those guys.
That was genius. That actually was, like, going back. See, that's an example.
Totally. Yeah.
I bet you caveman time there was working on the wheel.
Hey, now that's an interesting question. I actually have thought about this quite a lot. Do you think so? Because I've always imagined, like in caveman time, they're probably, like, from the time they open their eyes in the morning until they go to bed at night, it's like barely hanging on for survival, right? Like they're basically spending every moment of every waking hour trying to find
all right, I'm going to stop you right
eat.
there. Don't you think people wake up right now with that same thought?
Oh, absolutely. It's just not always the norm. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's more the norm than you think.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, instead of physical stress, it's psychological stress, and sometimes psychological stress. I don't know that. That's a great question. Did they just like, oh my God, I gotta go eat, I better go, or was there some,
I mean, maybe if you got some little band, like maybe a little tribe of 30 or 40, and you have like the little chieftain or whatever, maybe I bet you had some
They fought. They tried to get the chief all the time. I want to get the chief's power. Oh yeah. They drew pictures and stuff. They had social stuff going on.
Oh, totally. So I bet there was some of those chieftains.
Marty's pictures are pretty shitty. I think I could do it. Oh, sorry about that, Chris. Marty's pictures are pretty crappy. I think I could do a better job than that. Oh, Marty, I like you.
I bet you had some. I bet you had some lackadaisical, lazy chieftains going.
Oh yeah, and corrupt chieftains.
Yeah, totally.
What does corruption in hunter-gatherer society look like? They're like,
what does that look
keeping
like?
some meat.
I get all the meat. I get all the meat. No, I just get all the meat. You get nothing. Okay, it's like how you trained your dinosaur. No, how you trained your dragon. That's what happens in hunter-gatherer. Remember, all the dragons were throwing the meat into the pit for the big-ass one? It's going to be big one. That's what happens. They get all of it.
I just, like... Primitive human society, like, we've found people who recovered from full femur breaks, which is, like, wild. Because if you are living in a hunter-gatherer society and your femur cleanly breaks, you do nothing. You contribute absolutely nothing to the survival of the group, and yet
you're
being cared for. They're being carried around. They're being fed. They're being, dressed. And like, not saying that there weren't any, chieftains that were taking all the meat to themselves, but I think we don't give enough credit to our primitive nature for being collaborative and loving. And I think that, there always has been human evil, but I think that a lot of our perception of human evil has been magnified by the magnification of our perception in general through the internet.
Here's the thing you've got to remember. All of the things that we are right now today, is all the very same as then, right? And vice versa. Like there's no difference there, right? Like that's why I think if you're going to talk about the AI thing or whatever, the modernity.
Whoa, in some ways, what does that mean?
Modernity, like modernness.
Modernness. Yes.
Okay, I never heard that term. Sorry, remember I'm six. I read at 6th grade level. Keep going then. Some of my audience would have been. Some of your audience would have been like, "What is that word?"
I've got a 4th grader in the next room. You think I should quiz her on
that? That's because she has your DNA and she's already a genius.
No.
Keep going. Modernity, keep going. I mean,
anyways, it's crushing us, right? I have an idea to write a book about this, maybe, and that's all about, the thesis of the book would be, it is the difference in the time cycles that ultimately is causing all of the stuff.
All right, I'm going to tell you something. The book's already been written.
It probably has. And you know what it is?
The manifesto, the Unabomber's manifesto. He's a horrible, most disgusting human being ever.
All right, never mind.
But I don't want to get back into the Unabomber and libertarianism with you, David.
That's what he wrote. He wrote exactly what Chris is saying.
So actually, I think that you might be right. That was his
I'm
whole
not right.
jam.
I kept the original copy of the Washington Post Unabomber.
I was gonna say of the Unabomber manifesto, you went and bought the original copy, the letter that he sent.
Hey, my dad's got a connection to that because the guy was at Union. The guy's wife was teaching at Union College, and
you
the
could
guy
not beat this information out of me.
Anyways, my dad was the head of security at Union College when all that was going on. When he figured out his brother, based on it being, you saw the whole movie on that about the, what do you call it, forensic language. Did you not see the movie about the forensic? Holy moly! The whole study, the whole study of forensic language and language anthropology that they used to actually find him was absolutely amazing.
I remember reading about that. I didn't know they had a movie about it though.
Yeah, it was a what do you call it? Documentary? No, not documentary. Yeah. No, whatever. Just
biopic.
Documentary. Yeah, whatever.
Something along those lines.
All right, going back to your thing about what carries through time. That's what Interstellar talked about. What was Interstellar's premise? That love carried through all of that.
Yeah.
They carried through time, space, gravitational pull. It was that love did that. So you have some thoughts there, Chris. Pretty interesting, right? Maybe.
I agree. I agree with it. I think that, think about Ray Kurzweil, who, I love to geek out on. Mm-hmm. He has this premise that technology is evolution in a different time scale, which I completely agree with, right? So if you think about it, and I think actually, if you look at historical evolution, you already see evidence for this, right? Like you see there's a certain time scale for like cellular structure or whatever. And then, you've got you've probably got like certain time scale for like terrestrial animals, right? So for the longest time, it was just in the ocean or whatever, and that's still going on or whatever. But DNA is evolving bit by bit, right? So like we share 90 some percent of DNA with things like whatever, different kinds of worms and bugs and other creatures and things like that, right? Like the DNA is accumulating over time. So it's not just one species. Like we have this self-contained, typically hubristic view of humanity, right? But like in fact, like humanity is just kind of like an accumulation of DNA.
Is it getting worse or better? Is humanity getting worse or better based on that premise?
Well, that's a different conversation because
if
that's
I'm
a moral value. That's value judgment.
You 2020 human being goes to 1776 or the convention 1780 and sits down with those human beings. What's the differences?
Better. The difference is learned behavior. We've learned how bad, and I'm not saying there's not any of these things. There's no utopia.
You have better humanity than they do. Or do you think
No, I don't take credit for that. I think that
not you in general. I'm talking about the evolution of that person.
The circumstances have changed. I think that they had a lot less understanding of how bad war is and like how wrong it is to kill people and things like that.
You think they see blood everywhere? They kill each other. They see it all the time. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. That's back then they did because that was just how they rolled, right? Like
So the movie I talk about here I love is, and it's a goofy kid movie, but it's awesome. It's called The Last Mimsy. And the thought process here is as human beings evolved, their DNA got corrupted to where they couldn't go out in public. They were scared of everything. They lived in these protective suits, and they were killing each other. Because our DNA evolved to the point that we couldn't even live in the structure. So the thought process is some scientists had to go back in time and get a DNA from a pure spirit to restart the system. So that premise was that our DNA has been corrupted in a bad way, and that our humanity has slowly gotten worse because of that corruption.
I don't know. That seems a little rabbit hole-y to me, but maybe. I mean, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that for one thing, the bad, good, better, worse, like these are all just value judgments inside the mind, right? If you're talking about evolution, it's pure like nature red in tooth and claw, right? It doesn't care. It's just it's complete jungle, right? So like with that as the basis, you imagine you have like basically, so biology is the vehicle for the DNA to evolve. DNA is the vehicle on top of which we evolved. And Kurzweil doesn't put it like this, but this is how I see it. I see humans as basically being the DNA that the technology is evolving on top of, if that makes sense.
I got what you're saying. Yeah.
Toby, what do you think?
Interesting.
I think that ultimately, if you take a human from 1780 and, as a child, you plop them down into modern society, and if you take a child from now and you plop them down into 1780, I think there's very little difference.
That's a great thought experiment there.
I think the only macro changes that we've seen in our DNA are microplastics, like interfering, like
PFAS,
fluorinated polymers. Yeah,
exactly.
I think that person would be more anxious. I think the person from here would have a higher chance to be autistic and would be more anxious, would have less grit, less resilience.
I agree, but those are conditioned behaviors, right?
No, I mean, you can do a DNA test right now to show that you have markers for depression, Chris. I got one of the 2 markers for depression.
I don't need a DNA test to tell me I have depression.
Yeah, but the thing is, that tells you there's a genetic element associated. We have the 2 markers. Yeah. That's why people have this elongated, never can solve it. Now, has that evolved from our... Now, when you read Lewis and Clark, he got his depression and killed himself because of gonorrhea. It wasn't because...
Nothing is more depressing than gonorrhea.
But, it causes depression. I guess, long story short, my thought process is that person would be more anxious, with less grit, and have a higher chance of unable to function in that environment.
I would agree with that, but I think that that's also, you're like flattening the traits there, and not everybody has those, depressive tendencies or whatever. I mean, if you got,
probability, higher chance.
Football playing jock and dropped him in 1708, then he might do just fine.
Well, go back to the premise was a baby. He said, okay, take 2 babies, flop them back and forth.
Or a child, but yeah. Baby child. I don't think it makes a particular difference.
What if the child is like 12 years old, and who would have a higher survival potential? Modern child in 1700s or 1700s 12-year-old?
Child in
that's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
That's related to the physical, the technological advances and
medicine,
all that stuff. Medicine, yeah. It has
somewhat, but I think there's a grit aspect there too, right? Like I kind of think the 1700s would just chew up and spit out a modern.
Oh yeah, yes, oh yeah. They would be like, "What the? These people are the biggest wimps in the world." I mean, what's going on here?
I mean, I think that's another angle too, because I just thought about that. Like people back then were really small, right?
Yeah, that is an issue.
You would tower over those people. Toby, they wouldn't know what to do.
I mean, they're small because they didn't eat well.
Yeah, but not necessarily. Even if they were well fed, like if you go into museums and see the suits of armor and stuff, they're tiny. They're like 4'10", 5 foot at the most. And
it's all childhood nutrition. All of it's childhood nutrition.
I don't know.
Well, exactly my point. They just didn't have, even back then, they were scrabbling just to have enough to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got that definition. I could figure that one out based on the premise, but I was gonna. I don't think
he used that word correctly. I don't think scrabbling actually is a word unless you're talking about the game. Did you mean scrambling?
No, I think it's a real word.
Scrabbling?
You made up a word, Toby. Please, as God is my witness, this will make me the most happy.
Yeah. No, scratch or grope around with one's fingers to find, collect, or hold on to something. Hey, you got me too. You got me too.
Damn, I was gonna be the happiest I've been in a long time if you got him.
Toby, I'm very proud of this. I'm going to share something with you. I knew a word that your dad didn't know one time, and I was so proud of that. And I was very proud of it. I still remember
my father's alive.
Toby,
he is.
Tober. I know. That's part of our.
He's having an adventure. So you guys are spending a lot of time together, right?
We are. I've been greatly enjoying it. He keeps comparing me to you.
No. I say that I don't, because he's not your father, What I mostly point out is like things I see that. What was I trying to point out? It's like, oh, your stepfather does this, or hey, what did your stepfather do here? Now, the biggest thing I love is let's talk about your jealousy of Leela Jane.
My jealousy of Leela Jane, or Chris's jealousy of Leela Jane?
Let's talk about Chris's jealousy of Leela Jane. Chris, is there any jealousy of Leela Jane?
From me being jealous of Leela Jane?
Yeah, is there?
What is there to be jealous of?
She taking mom's time? She's smarter than you?
I hadn't thought about that one before. Now you're going to plant these seeds, and I am by 9 p.m. tonight, I'm going to be ravaged with jealousy thanks to this conversation.
Well, Toby, it's got to be tough to be a stepchild and then a biological child come in. Is it hard? I never had to experience that.
Early teenage years were definitely tough.
Yeah.
But that was less to do with Leela Jane and more to do with like a parent-teenager dynamic. I would say the only thing, I wouldn't even call it jealousy. I'm very happy for Leela Jane because I think back to how some situations were handled when I was a kid and like looking and seeing the growth that Mom and Chris have undergone and like how much more knowledge and experience that they have in parenting. And like, I do feel jealous for Leela Jane in that sense. It's like she doesn't even know how good she has it comparatively.
Yeah, because they were just learning how to be parents. Chris is walking into an environment he had no 5-year ramp up period. It was like, hey, here I am. Hey, here I am. I'm walking into.
It's true. It's true.
And also, by the way, Toby, parenting sucks. It's the hardest thing on earth. It's like brutal.
I've gathered as such.
It's brutal. I mean,
so I'm curious though, Toby. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, David. You finish your thought.
Last thing I would say is I go back to the movie Parenthood, and it's like, why do we not have a license for having a kid? Why is it you can have a kid. Anybody can have a kid, but you should have a license to have a kid.
That's a slippery slope, David. That's a
I
very
know, but I'm
slope.
just saying, it doesn't care anything. It's just like, take a class.
Oh yeah, but
that's the most libertarian thought I've ever heard.
Yeah.
There's a quote from a movie that just makes sense.
When we think historically about the people who have been disallowed from having children through force.
Oh, it's horrible. I'm not saying to disallow. I'm just saying I wish to goodness. Why doesn't high school have a child rearing? They do, but it's stupid. It's not right. The best class I took in high school was my personal business management class, Mrs. Stewart. Still remember her to this day, and I use most of the techniques that Mrs. Stewart taught me in that class to this day. My second most valuable class was typing, again for Mrs. Stewart. So why don't we do a more meaningful parenting class in high school?
I mean, I think you can do that and not require a license to have a child.
Yeah, again, I'm just throwing. That was a movie. The kid. It was Keanu Reeves' character. He was all totally screwed up. He was an idiot, and he came out with this prophetic thing. Every freaking jerk can have a kid, but you have to have a license to drive. That's how he said it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like,
what's next? A license to toast your own toast in your own damn toaster? Lord, I don't know if y'all have seen that. That's from the Libertarian debates in.
Oh, is it really?
2016. Yeah, it's pretty. I go and watch the 2016 Libertarian debates whenever I have a bad day, because they're defending selling heroin to 5-year-olds. It's magnificent.
I was wondering just this morning why the Libertarians on the ticket only get 1% of the vote, and I guess you're helping me with that a little bit there.
You wouldn't want to live on You wouldn't want to live on my Libertarian island, Toby?
Come armed.
Yeah, where's the water?
Let me ask you this question: have you read?
Is it the fire?
Have you read Atlas Shrugged? Atlas Shrugged.
I have read Atlas Shrugged.
Is not that a Libertarian island?
That's a very complicated question.
Ayn Rand created a Libertarian island.
No,
it's a Libertarian island.
It's not. You can't call a small enclave a system of governance, because
we're the most selfish bastards on the planet. Oh, I'm gonna run into my little world and protect myself because people don't like me and they're mean to me.
I just back in Roman times and in earlier societies, firefighting departments would come to your house, and while it was burning down, they would make you sell it to them for pennies on the dollar. and then only then would they put out the fire.
That's exactly
a libertarian society.
A libertarian society, yeah.
Right? That's what I want.
Because
I
you're
want when
stupid enough to get your house on fire.
Oh yeah, when the lightning strikes my house, I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb for the lightning striking a tree.
Didn't you have the little kid up there holding some metal? But also remember, in Rome...
Or my neighbor is dumb, and their house catches on fire, and that catches my house on fire.
Okay.
My bad, I should have had smarter neighbors.
In Rome, they also drank piss as a panacea, and they used to blow up in the toilets because the methane would build up, and the toilets would all explode.
You're helping my point here.
And the number one thing is most of them died because snakes bit them in the ass as they were in their freaking toilets.
Well, also all of their cups and plates were made of lead. Just great decision making.
That's a great everything going. But you know what's interesting? When we went to Italy and we went to Rome, so everybody should visit Rome. It was a real eye opener for me, man. Like Rome had like this. When you think of Rome, this big and society and the Caesars and all that stuff, they had a full-blown collapse after that, right? And like Rome was basically like what they had, like animals. It was overgrown, right? Like they experienced a straight dystopia, and it was like 1,000 years long, man. The population of Rome was in the, I don't know if it was in the hundreds or maybe the thousands or something, but it was basically like people huddling in little cubby holes and stuff and raising a few goats like in the ruins of these gigantic buildings and things.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, really, and then it came back. But I mean, I think that just the scale, the thing that got me about Rome was, again, it's back to the enterprise thing. To understand the scale of it was crazy. And even by today's standards, you could even see like the pieces. There's like pieces laying on the ground of these buildings and stuff. And some buildings are still standing, which is amazing that they're standing 2,000 odd years later. But they figured out how to build these things. And like, you're still, as a 21st century person, like looking up this being like, holy moly, that's gigantic.
It was aliens, Chris. It was aliens. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it wasn't aliens. It was
aliens that did all that. Come on.
Maybe aliens did the pyramids, although I don't think they did.
But here's the thing that gets me from that entire story.
Tens of thousands of laborers did the pyramids.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
It's amazing what you can do when you enslave people against their will and make them carry stones and do all the work.
Okay, Chris. So based on that story, will Washington, D.C. end up 1,000 years of being a desolate, completely empty space?
Well, I mean, what society that was at the top stayed there indefinitely?
Atlantis.
Not more than 300 years. 300 years seems to be about the limit for empire in human history.
Hey, look, if you are into this question, there's a very good book. And I've got to remember what it is, but I'll tell you before we're done.
Is it a Diamond guy? Is it Jared Diamond book? The Collapse of
Nations?
No.
It's not quite like that, but it's more like what's going on right now. And he talks a lot about China, and he basically talks about, if you think about it as a business cycle, he talks about the business cycle of nation states and how they come up. And he's like, when you look back, you see the same pattern over and over. That one dominant society captures the reserve currency, and then that becomes kind of like the world's currency, and then people kind of jockey to become, and then like because they have an incumbent advantage once they've got the reserve currency because it's locked in, right? So long after their society actually crests and kind of begins to drift into decline, they still continue to be the de facto dominant society because of the momentum established with having a lock on the reserve currency. But when they have that, they become like, essentially what they do is like kill themselves with debt is essentially what happens.
Well, that's what happened to Great Britain.
That's what happens.
It's happening to us right now.
It's happening to us right now as we speak.
No, all we're going to do is print a $1 trillion coin, 34 of them, and we are going to be fine.
$34 trillion coins.
$34 trillion coins. It does not cause any inflation, of course. And then everybody when we pay back all of our debts with those $34 trillion coins, everybody's happy to continue buying debt from us because no problem. We'll just pay it back with the money that's worth the exact
same. $1 trillion coins. They're great. They're awesome, man. I want $1 trillion coin. Imagine if you had $1 trillion coin. What would you do?
In Zimbabwe, when you had the $1 trillion bill. There was no problems in Zimbabwe when they started printing the $1 trillion bills.
Oh, yeah, it was great there. Venezuela.
It was great there.
Huh?
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Toby, you don't like my hyperbole at all, do you? It gets you angry. I
love
it.
watching the two of you.
It's not anger. It is passion.
Okay,
Yes.
I have one question before, because me and David actually have real work to do here in a few minutes.
Exactly. I don't care about real work.
No. I'm just, for one thing, I have to say this is by far the most fun I have had doing a podcast recording. I'd like to thank you guys. This is just fantastic. But
none of
I don't think we talked about enterprise learning for more than 45 seconds.
None of it's going to be used, by the way.
I don't know. I'm considering. I'm not going to call it AI in education. I'll call it something else. But I fully intend to publish.
The three whitest men you've ever seen waffle for an hour?
Yes, that's exactly my.
Oh no, we got to be differentiated, and that's
the
not
three white.
That's like 94% of podcasts on
How about
Spotify.
this one? Completely unwoked, middle woked, and fully woked white men conversating.
That's the woke spectrum. We are hitting the woke spectrum.
I think we're kind of there too. Like, I think David has our profiles pretty spot on, don't you think?
You'd like to think you're more woke than you are.
I'm awake. Chris is pretty woke. Chris is surprisingly woke.
He got his old southern tendencies. Some of his Texan comes out from time to time.
Toby will call me. I mean, I think Toby could give you a full and comprehensive inventory of where I am both woke and unwoke. I believe there was a moment in this very conversation, mere moments ago,
I saw
Toby
a couple moments in this conversation that you were unwoke. I saw it too. I actually saw it. How about that?
Okay, the listeners to the EL pod want to know, what do you guys make fun of me about when you're gabbing to yourselves? Ooh. What do you enjoy?
Pontification.
We had a great... Pontification comes up frequently.
Pontification, absolutely. Man, you
honestly, if I'm being fully and completely honest, unless I'm making fun of you to your face, I do very little making fun of you behind your back.
But here's the thing.
That means a lot to me.
We're teasing you about pontification. That's what we do. I tease you about that constantly.
Yeah.
Give you a topic and you go, baby. But that's a value attribute too.
Give me a topic and I go, baby. That's right.
Go, baby.
That's
Turn it on and it rocks. I love that.
You just got to keep it making sense. Here's what
I
think. We
don't even talk about his mom at all. I mean, we have no conversation about mom. Very little.
Very little.
Talking about somebody's mom is only fun if you're doing it to their face, though, right? I mean, that's
doing. I don't know, mom and doing. If I would ever put those two into the
Thank you,
same
David.
subject,
Thank you, David.
Ever again.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that.
That's the worst insult ever. Somebody's like, "Don't talk about my mama."
Oh my God.
But then it's like
I can't stop you from talking about doing my mama. It's like
no, that's
I don't
not
sit there and take it. I don't sit there and
take it.
You
want me to tell you the one thing about your stepfather and your mom?
I don't know.
He loved her from the beginning. He loved her in the middle. I don't know about now, but that freaking dude was totally into your mother.
I have that knowledge.
Completely and insanely into your mother.
I think, Mother, I love you and you're wonderful. I think that's the only kind of person that could ever be with my mother. I think if you're not totally and completely in, I do not think it. I mean, my father's in Thailand for a reason.
Oh, come on. You're so bad. You know, if you ever watch the show...
Love you, Mama.
If you ever watch the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine...
I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
He's fully boiled. He's fully boiled. He's fully boiled to me.
He's pretty boiled.
I'll
get 84% boiled.
Yes.
I don't think he's 100% there.
So that's the one thing as it relates to him and your mom. And I remember the first time I met her. Chris, when was the first time I met her? I remember it clearly.
Was it the LLS Man of the Year event?
No, it was a snowstorm.
A Christmas snowstorm.
It was a snowstorm. Yeah, it was a snowstorm. We were drinking at Lucky 32. And she told me the story about how you used to wear overalls all the time, and I almost fell out of my chair laughing my freaking butt off. And how much
I don't think I've ever seen Chris wear overalls.
And how much she hated him in those overalls, and he thought he was such a dork. Initially, she thought he was.
No, that's two different things. Hating me and thinking I'm a dork are two very different.
Okay,
things.
I'm sorry. That's strong. You're right. Absolutely.
Hated the overalls.
Yes, hated the overalls.
Thought he was a dork.
Thought you were a dork.
See,
and you were trying to be so cool. I can only see you now. You're trying to be so cool, and you love this woman, and she's looking at you like you're a complete doofus.
Complete doofus.
I really didn't give two craps back then, to be honest. Although I did have a crush on Toby's mom, even then.
Of course you did. It's okay. There's nothing nothing wrong with that.
No, I'm not.
I love it, man. I love it. I love that part of you. I love that part of you. I love that passion. That's awesome. And how you were able to turn her mind.
Now that
and
I have
see
truly
the greatness
impressed myself
that you
with.
are. Yes.
What a podcast this has been.
Also, number 2 would be the words. I'll make fun of you in the words all day long. I'll tell those stories till the day is long. That's just fun for me.
I do miss that. I miss getting made fun of about my vocabulary.
Remember, I was the semi-smart, what's his name from Family Guy? Peter, I was Peter, Griffin. They used to keep a list, Toby, of all the stupid things I said.
Oh, I've
running
got
list of all of them.
I've got a quote book from Lily that's hundreds long. I had a whiteboard.
I need to see if that document still exists. I bet somebody has it. I'll bet Tracy or Katie or somebody has it. Now it's my turn to tell you something, Toby, about David M. All right?
Yes!
So dig this.
Ammunition.
All right? So he goes on and it has this whole thing, it's Peter Griffin and all this stuff. And so that is true from like a demeanor. So he's got the demeanor, and it's not like he's faking it or anything like that. But inside that Peter Griffin-esque cranium lies one of the most brilliant and intelligent brains you will ever come across.
Pretty broken, brother. Pretty broken. There's some.
We're all broken. We're all broken. We're all broken in that way.
But I'll tell you what, I have 2 brothers that are probably 2 of the smartest people. I mean, it's just incredible how smart my 2 brothers are.
But didn't you say your brothers are weenies?
Yeah, of course they're weenies, but they're smart. Like your family. I mean, it's weird how that works
I'm
out.
a weenie. I'm a smart weenie.
It's weird how it work out. My intelligence is different though. It's weird. It's kind of weird.
That makes it special and valuable, man.
It's kind of interesting.
Outliers, Black Swan, getting off the bell curve.
My dyslexia is so jacked up.
Yeah.
I can't spell. I can't even see a word. I can't even visualize a word. It's just so weird. I'm like looking at that word. I'm thinking, what letters comprise that word? I can't even see it. The only way I write is by memorization. Like when I have to sound out the word, you should see it in action. It's.
Has it gotten worse with time?
Yes, it's gotten worse. Yeah, it's gotten worse. That's why ChatGTP is such a gold mine for me, man. Yeah. Holy moly, I love that.
I have not met a single person over the age of 49 who has said Chat GPT.
I know.
Always
What's that about?
GTP.
GTP.
I don't know. I get the T sound is easier, I guess.
Oh, I always
but
mispronounce
it's universal. It's all GTP.
I've had a couple people who shorten it just to chat too, right? Like instead of calling it AI, I'll just ask chat.
Well, in French, it's like the 6th biggest tech company in Europe now. It's the
Minstrel?
French AI company that's
Minstrel?
just a GPT clone. It's called Le Chat.
Oh, Le Chat. Okay, I thought it was Minstrel.
Dave, you had a thought you were going to be.
My biggest pet peeve in all the AI space is how AI is synonymous with all of it. You know, my thing, all right, are we talking about algorithmic AI or are we talking about generative AI? And so I still have that pet peeve. I wish more people would be more specific about which type of AI they're talking about.
Mistral is the company, though, David. You're right.
Yes, it's Mistral.
The product is Le Chat.
Yeah, Mistral's model is supposed to be awesome. Yes, I absolutely. Well, you know I do because I talk. Well, you haven't come to one of our classes, but I always make that point, right?
You bang it drives me crazy.
Because just so that and here's the reason why, because I want anybody who comes through one of our classes to be ahead of Gen Pop in terms of just their literacy and their vocabulary, right? So when the whole news media and everything is just out there saying AI, but what they're really talking about is ChatGPT or generative AI, right? Like it's not doing justice to the fact that there's lots of different kinds of AI. And this is the other point. There's a pragmatic point here too, because I tell them when you get out of this class, people are going to know you just took this class, right? You're going to be freshly enabled and you're going to be the newly minted AI literate person right there. And you may find yourself with a seat at the table in strategic conversations because people want to understand strategically how do we incorporate AI into, our business strategy. But the problem is if you're actually talking about generative AI and you have this, it limits your strategic canvas, right? Because there are lots of different kinds of AI that an organization can use and they can work together, right? Like if you start using your imagination, algorithmic AI, machine vision, other types of neural networks, generative AI, you can start using these components
IoT
together.
pulling the AI, pulling the data.
Yeah,
in to feed
exactly.
either one. I mean,
exactly. But I just so that's
beautiful. That's
yeah.
beautiful.
So
by the way,
that's why I don't like it when people just call generative AI, because then if somebody in a leadership position or a decision maker is saying, "Oh, we have to get with AI. What's our AI strategy?" but they think AI is just ChatGPT, it's like they're really limiting themselves. So that's yeah.
So Bloomberg's the best. If you have time to listen to Bloomberg surveillance. Oh my gosh! I just want to call them up one time and just say, "You stupid sons of bitches! Please stop! Please do some more research before you start talking about this." But do you know, this is a true fact, there is $1 trillion worth of CapEx specifically rated to servers and chips for generative AI set that will be spent over the next 5 years. $1 trillion.
NVIDIA is making money hand over fist.
Yeah, but $1 trillion, brother, that's a different kind of number. Has there ever been anything with the capex of $1 trillion ever? I mean,
I don't think so, Chris. I mean, it's because it's just like, oh my gosh.
I mean, it took Apple and NVIDIA and Microsoft and these, I mean, their entire histories to hit overall market capitalizations of $1 trillion, and that was just like within the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, NVIDIA is a $3 trillion market cap. You know,
plus or minus $500 billion every day.
Every day,
totally.
That's normal. That's healthy.
Read about the Magnificent Seven. Read about the growth in the stock market based on the Magnificent Seven.
I'm very up to date and aware and terrified
of the Magnificent Seven. Yeah,
of the Magnificent, which it's really just at this point it's just the Magnificent One.
Okay, Toby, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Microsoft buys 3 Mile Island. How does it make you think at your age?
Ooh, I mean, good question.
Here's the thing. I think generally we really screwed the pooch on nuclear energy. Okay. It's why, I mean, I get it. I understand it's scary because when things go wrong, they really go wrong. But when you compare the danger levels of nuclear radiation to just coal energy, natural gas energy, all of these things produce on average much more radiation, give much more cancer, do a lot more damage to people and society and the environment. And like, we're not there with green, clean, efficient energy production yet. Like we just don't have the capability to roll out wind and solar and geothermal easily and sustainably across the board in a way that isn't going to mess with the short-term power draw. And I think transitioning from nuclear to green would have been a lot simpler than what we're trying right now.
So my question to you is, why is that you enlightened to that, or is your generation across the cohort enlightened to that? Because what I would tell you,
I think I definitely am toward the end of the bell curve on being enlightened to that. I think our generation certainly is more pro-nuclear than, say, Gen X, who like grew up with Fukushima and 3 Mile Island and like these very scary things that happened in their childhood.
Chernobyl.
But I mean, since I was 12, Bill Gates has been buying up farmland in the U.S. I'm no stranger to the mega rich, ultra wealthy monopolizing capital.
Yeah.
I
love what you said there, by the way, because that's it just drives me crazy, because look at the COVID situation and they compared air quality in New York to France. There was no major difference in air quality in France because all their electric is by, what do you call it? By nuclear anyways. Mm-hmm. So, the changes in emissions because of the power plants in New York was amazing during the COVID time. And, the car emissions and all that's really the car emissions.
Venice's canals were clean.
Yeah. So
animals started coming back.
It's really interesting. That goes back to the whole Thanos thing. Do you believe that maybe it is right to snap your fingers, half the population goes so that people can actually live a better life?
No.
No, not at all. How about Logan's Run? There is no sanctuary. You all die at 36 years
you
old.
have
everybody dies
on your
at
hand
36.
A gauntlet that can completely alter reality in any way as you see fit, and you use it to kill half of the universe instead of, like, I don't know, make energy and resources abundant and easily available and reproducible.
All right, let's ask you this question. Nanobots. Do you know that nanobots have the capability to make it so that you just build something constantly, that it just will build?
Well, theoretically.
Theoretically, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Slight tangent off the Thanos thing. Marvel, like, getting rid of the whole plot where Thanos is doing all of this because he wants to bag death. he's got the hots for death.
That's
why he does it's like. That's why he does it. It's not. I mean, like, of course, it also is his philosophy or whatever. But if it truly was his philosophy that like he wants to create a grateful universe that isn't going to starve itself, the solution is the exponent curve exponents. It doesn't matter if you chop it off halfway. It's just going to exponent back up again. Like it. Anyway,
yeah,
well, it makes more sense. It makes more sense if you're trying to bang
not
death.
If you don't have
it makes
a birth
lot more
rate.
sense if you're trying.
Not if you don't have a birth rate. Right now, the world has a birth rate issue, and the great government Ponzi scheme is going to break unless the birth rate grows back up.
Well, the
you know how
Western
the birth rate goes back up?
the Western developed world has that issue.
Ponzi. Oh, well, you know what? India's reducing. You know, South Korea's birth rate now is 0.6.
It's bad. It's real bad. But in South Korea, there is very little family support.
Yep.
Both parents have to work
Yep.
usually 70-hour weeks.
Yep.
This is why the birth rate is low.
Yeah.
No, people don't feel financially safe enough to have a family. They don't feel like they will be able to raise a child comfortably and take care of it and not have to worry about childcare and all of these things.
I love hearing your thoughts at that generational level. Gets me excited that your generation might be warming to the whole nuclear thing because it would have solved a lot of our problems earlier on. If we could have got our heads out of our ass. And
we're a little late on it, though, because all the nuclear engineers are dying. And
it's like
they don't stop training them. We don't have any nuclear engineers anymore.
The saddest thing, it's like my fear of dying from a shark. I would be more apt to die from a wild boar in the woods of
Be more apt to die from a vending machine falling.
Yeah, but that's what's going on. That's what's happened. And it's so weird how we end up.
Big scary is scary. We're not good at statistics. We're really bad at big number statistics.
I guess what's good at it? AI.
That's right.
Well,
or computers in general.
Computers.
Yeah.
Well, algorithmic AI is beautiful.
Gen AI is a little funny with math right now.
Yeah, but algorithmic AI is great predictor using information. Anyway, something to think about. All right, Chris,
Lots
you want to go back and
actually
do some work?
We can do some real work, although I'd rather do this for the rest of the day. But yeah, Well,
I'd rather do it with a couple beers in front of a fire.
I'd rather
go
break out some sandwiches.
Yeah, you can have some sandwiches too. I'll have a beer and a sandwich. You'll have 2 sandwiches.
We'll have another one like this again. And Toby, do you know how much editing work you just created for yourself?
A good bit, a couple hours for this one, I think.
But I don't actually think we want to edit it very heavily. I'm just
am just gonna take out the very beginning part.
And some other things. Let's make sure we don't look because someone might see this and you know how it goes. The world is a different place today.
No, that's not true. We don't need any privacy. They can see everything we say and do.
Yeah, exactly. You get him, Chris. You get him. All right, ELA pod listeners. Apologies from all 3 of us for this train wreck. But I hope you enjoyed.
This has been the Panopticon.